Welcome to today's show. This is part 10. This is the 10th part of the series of growing and building your own law firm from start to finish, or just refining the systems and processes and routines along the way. I'm excited as we wrap up the last few episodes of this process for just the conversation to be able to get this happen. But leading into it, we just wrapped up Thanksgiving, so I would be remiss not to be grateful and just have a quick conversation, man. How are you recovering from the holiday?
Yeah, for me, I like Thanksgiving because it's not very materialistic, right? Although I say that, but then Black Friday is right after that, which is a major shopping day. It used to be a huge shopping day for my family. Before probably my son was in law school, we'd always go to the mall that Friday, and when they were younger, we'd do the whole doorbuster kind of thing just to do it, though, not like we're trying.
So you did like the early morning thing where you got up at like 2 a.m.
We get up at like
3
4 or 5, I think. And a lot of times that was just my wife and me. Sometimes my son did like the Best Buy one time, and he was in line, and then they just sort of opened the doors at midnight or whatever. So he was sort of like anticlimactic, and he was like, "I'm not doing this again."
Right.
And we used to like to go to see all the people, and some of that craziness. Like I say, not really buying anything. I remember when movies were popular and we would doorbuster, that kind of deal. Best Buy would have like all DVDs, $10.
Right.
But that's it. My Thanksgivings are usually pretty uneventful, which is great. We don't have a lot of conflict in the family around Thanksgiving, things like that. So I'm pretty thankful for that, actually. We can all get together and eat and enjoy each other's company with no issues, Well,
I told you the only reason we didn't have World War III this year in my Thanksgiving is because a certain person didn't show up.
Yeah.
And since we're live on the air, I'm not going to say who it is, but they weren't there. And because they weren't there, it was a wonderful Thanksgiving for me.
Yeah. So.
I know. We're one of those families. There's some moments, honestly, it's straight Jerry Springer. I'm going to go ahead and be honest.
Yeah.
And it's probably my fault. I'll take the blame. It's probably me, but at the end of the day, this Thanksgiving was great. It was nice. It was peaceful.
Knowing what I know about you, Trevor, I'm going to say some of it probably is your lack of conflict avoidance, maybe, that
100%.
Which may be part of that process.
I might poke the bear a little bit with a comment here or there. It's very quite possible. So it's all good though. So we're rolling in. It's at the time we're recording this, which you guys will be listening to it a couple weeks after, but we're in the month of December, finishing up the year, which is really the best time to, if you haven't listened to any of the other episodes, go back about 10 episodes from before now. I always have a hard time saying that. I don't know why. 10 episodes ago. And really, you can binge this when you're taking some time off with the family, et cetera, for the holidays, and really get a feel for what it takes to build the foundation, to build a $10 million plus law firm, and what that takes. Because I know a lot of your listeners, right? You're doing 2 to 3 million, 4 million, and you feel like you hit these ceilings. And a lot of what we're talking about in these episodes is helping you overcome those and get to a place where you can actually build the firm you want as well as the life that you want doing so. We cover marketing, sales, advertising, systems, hiring, all sorts of things. But today's topic is going to be probably a little bit shorter than most, but at the same time, super important as you get established, because this is one of those things that creates massive credibility for you in how you use it. And what I'm talking about is testimonials, case studies, the reviews you receive online, on Google, on your own website, from however you're getting this, and then how on earth you use it. Tell everybody, why is this important?
I think it's social. Part of it's social proof, right? Especially all the online stuff. You've got to have a certain amount of stuff out there, and everybody reads reviews. Everybody looks at them, and you got whole websites dedicated to just reviews. I mean, Bing and I don't go to a lot of them, but I mean, Google Review, they push that. They'll also push Google Reviews will impact your business local pages and things like that. So you've got to have a certain amount of reviews, and you've got to have an ability to get those reviews and get them posted, which sometimes is the hardest part. Mm-hmm. And like years ago when I started, you had your reviews, but you got your testimonials usually like in your office, right? And they would come in, you'd give them a check, you'd have them, you'd walk up, grab them and sort of be like, hey, I give you a big check. Can you give me a quick testimonial? Thank you. And you can just record it right in your office, not even really edit the things and just throw them online, right? That was a
Right.
super easy way to do it. Before that, we did all written. So we'd send a survey at the end. Clients would fill stuff out, and then we would just post the survey. We wouldn't edit it. We wouldn't do anything. We just post it on in like our shock and awe package.
Yeah.
So we would do that. We'd also post some on our website, right? Which you can still do that and should do that, right? But what we would do is we would have a stack of these things, and we would just scan them all. And then if somebody said something like, oh, I don't see you guys have a lot of reviews or online, or hey, I'm on the fence, we'd be like, well, here's some of our reviews. And we just send them a PDF of like 100 pages of
Right.
Google reviews, just talking about how great we were and all that. And it was pretty effective. I mean, people would get it and be like, oh, wow, this is, people really like you. And now it's harder, I think, because people are familiar with positive reviews and negative reviews. So you can't do that selecting out like you used to do with the paper reviews. Somebody says you're bad, you just pull that one out of the stack.
Right.
But it's harder now, but everybody's looking for reviews, right? Everybody's looking, and they're looking, do they sound true? Do they sound fake in body? Or things like that. I mean, even Amazon's got like verified purchasers now, versus just spammy reviews. So it's all gotten harder.
Well, and I think there's this level with AI, and you kind of mentioned bots and things like that, where unfortunately it's easy to fake it.
Yeah,
it's easy to pretend. And here's what I'll come out right out of the gate with, and just put a stamp on this and double stamp it and just put my signature on it. Do not ever make a fake testimonial. No. I don't care if you're just starting out and you don't have a single case. Tell people that you don't have a single case. Like, being honest in this case, like, is going to pay you dividends down the road. And it's just, there's a karmic debt that comes from this if you're making stuff up. And this is what, and I've experienced this. I've watched people do it. I have family members who, one of them was starting this company, and none of us bought his product, and he reached out to all the family members, can you write me this quick review? And then I even had one go a step further where he wrote a review for me and then showed it to me and said, hey, here's what I had you say. And it was on his website. And I'm like, bro, I've never bought your product. I would never will. I'm not even I would never be a client of what you're selling.
No, and along that line, though, right? If you're just starting out, there's probably stuff you could get people to post that might not be a total review of your product, but it's some part about you or about your company or even about the product. Maybe you give it to them for free, right? People do that with Instagram people all the time. And one of the reviews I had years ago, it's pretty funny. Me and my wife went to lunch. There was a busy intersection near my office, and some dude's car died in the middle of the intersection. So I jumped out. I'm in my suit and just pushed his car through the intersection and got him off to the side of the road. Then he's like, who are you? I'm like, oh, I'm a lawyer, and my name is Shane. I didn't even give him a business card or anything else.
Right.
And he was cool. And then next thing you know, 2 days later, I have a review pops up on my, wherever it was at. I assume it was Google reviews or whatever. And it's like, I don't know anything about his legal services, but he's a great guy. He jumped out and pushed my car while in his suit, back from lunch or whatever kind of deal. And he was on his way to a meeting, but he still stopped and saved me and my wife. It was great. We couldn't move our car. And I had multiple people comment on that years later, they would see it and go, I guess you're a pretty good guy.
Right.
Don't fake it, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and I think that brings up something too. If you are starting or you don't have a lot of testimonials or things like this that you can utilize, you bring up a great point. Let's say it's new. You're starting a new area or it's just a new practice. Like, you're just starting your firm and you're like, okay, here we go. And people can review you.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be, and I think that's such a great point, because at the end of the day, people are buying you anyways, right? People are buying it might be buying your legal services, but at the end of the day, they're buying you. And so if you can, and this is where you can now cross over to where, hey, they may not have ever been a client and paid for you, but even your mom, she might have some good things to say about you, and it's a legit review. It's like, hey, Shane is a great guy. He always follows through with things he says he's going to do. That's a review. right? So it doesn't have to be, specific to that when you come. You just got to make sure that it's real.
Right. That's the
They
part.
said it, like you're not going in and saying, well, Shane's such a nice guy. He helped move my car and making some bullshit story up about something that never actually happened.
Because it never sounds real is what the
No.
problem is, right? And I've had people come to me before and they're like, "Hey, why do you have this review on your webpage? Grammatically, it's not great or whatever." I'm like, "It's a legit review, right?"
Mm-hmm.
My client may not have been that sophisticated, but they said great stuff about me.
Yeah.
And I think it sounds, they're looking at it saying Shane the lawyer didn't write that,
Right.
right? So clearly it's I don't want to say it must be true, but it rings and sounds true. And
Yep.
when other people write it for you, that is good. Now you you know, it's better for them to have some words and some specifics in their review than just he's a great guy. But those are okay too, is what I would
Mm-hmm.
say.
Yeah.
Um, One thing I am going to say on the legal side is be careful responding to any negative reviews that you get. The
Right.
bar rules in each state are a little bit different on what you can do and what you can't do and client confidences. So that's one of those things. Take your time, follow your own rules. We're not going to address that here today. That's very state specific. Just if you're responding to any negative ones, make sure you follow your state rules. Uh, which,
Yeah.
speaking of that, I know there are lots of services out there that will help you. I don't want to say funnel the positive reviews, but they help you screen out some of the negative ones, right? So you can
Yeah.
build up your own surveys inside your company. They go to your clients. If they give you constructive criticism or criticism, you can see it, and then that's where that ends. And if they're all 5 stars, then that same service will encourage them to give you a review, right, on
Mm-hmm.
Google or anywhere else, and help direct those. And those are great. They cost some money, obviously, but it's an option for people to look at as well.
Yeah. Yeah. What I think too, like you dive into reviews, you dive into testimonials, and then there's like, I want to talk through the difference between how would you utilize different ones, right? Because you have
Yeah.
text testimonials like that are just written. You might have a picture of the person, and then you also might have a video, and then you take it a step further to a case study. So, because they're all different and they're all utilized differently. I'm curious from your standpoint, Shane, what type of this type of feedback, whether it's a testimonial, case study, how you got it, which one have you found to be the most utilized that's given you the biggest return? Or, I mean, is there a distinction there?
It's hard for me to say which one works the best, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because they all serve sort of different functions a little bit.
Right.
I think like your case studies and your case reviews, right? Like we talked about, we had somebody come in to us. They had a terrible offer right before 2 weeks before a statute. We took it. We noticed some value. We immediately filed a lawsuit and then started negotiating. And that went up. We got that to go up like fivefold or tenfold. I don't even remember what it was. It was a huge bump for inside of like, 90 days.
Yeah.
And that case review just talked a little bit about our lit process that we're willing to file a lawsuit and how we dig in. And then we got this great result, which I think that speaks out to anybody in that same circumstance, right? I think that's where case studies are great for very specific circumstances because we can add a lot of details and we can
Mm-hmm.
craft that story because we're describing the case and we're describing the results. So that
Yeah.
allows you as the lawyer to be the storyteller there and make sure key differences aren't missed and things like that. So we use that sort of as just general stuff on our YouTube, telling that case review and that case study, or we used to send out links to it to our lists, right? So it
Yeah.
would speak out to people. I think the reviews are more when you're advertising and things like that, and people see your ad and then they want to go to that review, and they just see a quick thing. How do you look, right? 5 stars,
Yeah.
4 stars, where you at?
Yeah.
Um, and I think a few negatives makes it seem more real too. I think if you have 5,000 5 stars, people are like, that looks a little spammy.
Yeah.
Um, and then testimonials, we've used that sort of to close the deal when we've got somebody on the fence with hiring us. We'll send them to our testimonial page on our website, right? And it talks about every specific case. And, or we sent them the link or we sent them that packet. And I think then they see that we've already engaged with them for whatever reason they were on the fence. Then they see all these things that we've sent and they're like, okay, wow, they've done a bunch of stuff. And
Yeah.
I think like the way our format was, it was handwritten. So I think people look at it and say, well, this is probably pretty legit. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
this is This is real. This is not BS. Um, just like when you've got the raw testimonial in your office, it feels real and it
Mhm.
feels legit, versus the case studies are a little more crafted. And I don't want to say they're not real, but it's clearly you're telling a story and you're doing,
Mhm.
you're giving more info.
Yeah.
Does
Yeah. Well,
that
and I think the
answer
case
that,
studies, I
Trevor?
mean,
Yeah.
I'll say with the case studies, those can be utilized in so many different ways. And the distinction I've always seen with a testimonial and a case study is a testimonial is just like, hey, here was this great thing that they did for me. They're a great person. Boom, there you go. It's kind of shallow. It's good. There's nothing wrong with it, but it doesn't go super deep. And there, like you said, there's not a lot of detail. And so it can be utilized more as a blanket of, hey, I've got all
Right.
these testimonials, people like this. But when you have that case study, you can start to utilize those in a lot of different ways. And one of the ways that I think it's underutilized that I've seen across the board, and I think it's underutilized because it takes some time to put it together, but from a marketing and outbound strategy, meaning that is the ad,
Yeah.
right? This case study on this family's life, and it's not just a case study on what you did for them legally, it's what happened to their family. Like it's a full case study, right?
Right.
You're
It is.
studying, okay, because of,
Yeah. I
yeah,
was going to
because of
say
one
definitely.
this, and
Yeah. We're talking over each other, but
you're good.
yeah, I think the case study is great. I think it's great at calling out to clients who are the similar circumstance, right? And they're
Hmm.
like, "Oh, I resonate with this." Like one thing a lot of lawyers want to talk about the case results, right? And they want to talk about all their huge cases, right? All their
Yep.
best cases where they got people millions of dollars. I think that's great and I think that's fine. But I think one, a lot of new lawyers don't have all those great, million dollar
Hmm.
verdicts. Um, but what they can do, and I think that can, if you're only $1 million, plaintiff firm, okay, cool. If you only work $1 million case, but if you work on regular car wrecks like I do, I think if you don't have those case studies that talk about people in similar
Yep.
circumstances, right? Those regular car accidents where people are hurt, genuinely hurt, and they need help, but they're not going to have $1 million case, right? Their life wasn't catastrophically changed. So if you only talk about those, those big verdicts, I don't think it calls out to those people. I don't
Right.
think it calls out to them. And I used to have a pitch. I would be like, it's great. Go with the guy who's got $600,000-$700,000 verdicts all the time. But my guess is he doesn't work on cases your size, right? He
Hmm.
doesn't work on regular car wrecks for regular people. That's what I do. So that
Yeah.
was sort of my anti-big verdict. And I work on cases just like you. And that's what I pitched on those results all over, where I took regular cases and turned them into you know, 25, 30, $50,000, which didn't change
Yeah.
anybody's life, but it got them the help they needed, got them some money, and paid all their bills, and
Hmm.
and got me
When I
paid.
think, yeah, I think a lot of what you're talking about here, which I think is very important, is who are you speaking to?
Yeah.
So realizing these case studies, these testimonials, they're actually leveraged to speak to your avatar. And if you don't know who you're speaking to, right? We talked about this in previous episodes, like if you're niching down, what is your niche inside your firm? Like what are you going after? And then you tailor these testimonials or the case studies to make sure that they're speaking to that person,
Right.
because we're all the same. If we don't relate with it, if it's so far above our head or so beyond our reality, it might sound cool, right? But it's for most people's comprehension, it's like, well, $10 million doesn't mean a whole lot to them, because it is. What does that mean? $10 million? Like
Right.
I mean, yeah, that'd be so cool, but that's about where it ends, because they can't even fathom that kind of money. But when you start talking about 50,000, now all of a sudden they're like, oh man, maybe that's a year's pay for them, but they could see how that would change everything for
Right.
them. And now it's speaking to them. And if you've got somebody in that similar, and then utilizing those to do the things we talk about in marketing and sales, where you're utilizing that from the front side, and you get the client to sell for you.
Right. And that's what it is. They were selling.
Yes.
And, we used to do some of that. We would bring somebody on our podcast for my law firm, or we would put them in a newsletter. And right, we'd
Mm-hmm.
do a little case study about them or whatever, and we'd send it to them in advance. And then they'd be like, "Oh, this is cool. Can I have some extra copies to send to my family and friends?" Right? Or can I send the link to my family and friends, right? When we post stuff on Facebook and things like that about it. And that they spread their own testimonial. It was kind of
Yeah.
crazy. Or
Yep.
case study, whichever one you want to. It was probably a case study because it was pretty detailed, what we were
All right.
doing, but talking about how we changed their life and helped them. But they would do that all the time.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Well, people love to talk, and if you get good results, people love to tell you, right? That they'll love to tell, and they love to have a guy. Like, who's their guy, right? And so in that case, people will talk nothing because they want to have the guy. They want, oh, you got injured. Well, you can talk to my guy, Shane. He's a killer attorney. They took care of me. They did da 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 da. And so then the word of mouth of that testimonial can expand just all on its own, and you get those true fans of your firm. This is where I think a lot is missed, right? And where you really want to capitalize on that and spend the money it might take to hire professional videographers if needed. I mean, who knows what level you're trying to go here, but at least capture all that you possibly can from this customer who's going to do nothing but raise their hand and say, yeah, I've got a guy, he's amazing or she's amazing. Like, go after that and utilize that, because it's really good. It's huge, because it's no longer you telling about you. I can get on a VSL, I can get into a sales pitch, and I can tell you how great I am all day long. But until that person feels that they trust me, and one of the quickest ways to earn trust is that not only did I say it, but so did Steve, so did Eric, and so did Mark over here. They said the same thing because they actually experienced it from me. So common knowledge says, well, that's going in my mind, it says, well, if they did it for Steve, I'm just like Steve. Well, he could probably do it for me.
Right. And one of the things when we would get it, I think sometimes we make it hard for people to give us testimonials, right? They're like, hey, Trevor, can you give me a testimonial? Can you say how great I did? Okay, you didn't give him any kind of frame. I didn't give you any kind of frame there. Where a lot of times, we would just do like 3 or 4 questions, right? I'd be like, hey, Trevor, so, what was the biggest thing in your mind when you first came to the firm, or why'd you hire me? Okay, tell me, were you happy with the resolution when we got your case resolved? And then talk a little bit about that. And, what's something inside, during the whole practice, how do we help you feel or something? You ask 3 or 4 questions and it spurs him to give you specific answers to those. Then you've got the whole testimony. You can cut part of those up, right? Nothing says you've got to use all 5 questions in your testimony if you're doing something. No. You can cut out number 3. You've got 1, 2, 4, and 5 and bundle it together. You can do it for the next one. I mean, so you can, and there's nothing wrong. You're not doing anything wrong with that. You're just clipping out the part that answers that specific question.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and there's a tool that I'd suggest all of you guys get access to go use, because it's really easy and it allows you, especially if you're not meeting people in the office all the time, right? And maybe you're doing a little more remote work or you're more most of your time's on the phone. Is the website's called Video Ask. So this will be my shameless plug for them because I think it's phenomenal. But videoask.com. And it is the easiest thing in the world to use. You record those questions. Maybe there's 3 to 5 questions, whatever it is. They click on a link, and it automatically pulls up their phone and gives them question after question. They record their answer. They hit send, and it sends all of those to you. And because I think you bring up a great point that we make it hard for people. We need to make it very easy. It needs to be simple. It needs to be just where it's not a hard thing for them to do. Another thing to consider, guys, and I've done this several times with someone who I knew was a big fan. I knew they would give me a good review no matter what. But I didn't script them, but I told them how to answer the question. Right. Now, this might sound shady. It's not, because what I'm trying to do is I know they know that I'm good at what I do. They've already told me that many times. So I'm like, okay, will you say it like this? Because I want to use that specific phrase in some marketing that we're going to do. So when you reply to this question, make sure you include it and say it in this format so that I can use it as a standalone question. So people sometimes think you can't coach the people are giving testimonials. Somehow that's wrong or indifferent. No, and these people want to help you. These are the true fans. Right? Not everybody's going to want to do that, but these are the true fans who are like, man, you've made such an impact on my life. You made such a difference. Because of your service, I'm now better because of it. And then you tailor what you want to say. And then when you utilize that testimonial, I mean, it hits that avatar. You can use it in all these mediums we're talking about, and it resonates. It hits all the key points that you're trying to hit. So don't be afraid to help get a good testimonial. Don't expect that person to just know how to say the thing the right way.
Or say it the way you want it said, right? It's not even right or wrong. It's the way you want it done exactly.
Well, a lot of times people will do testimonials and they'll say phrases that are great what they said, but it's not a standalone statement. So it's very hard to use it because the way they said it, it's like you can't, there's no context around it. So they may have said you're amazing, but they said it in such a way that if you just put that out like that, it would be weird because there was no context and they said it in a weird way. Yeah. And it's like, hey, cool, try that again. This time say it like this, right? Which means you need to put some forethought into this. This testimonials are not just hey, Give me a testimonial. I'd really appreciate it.
No,
Right?
I was gonna say I used to when I was trying to record them a lot, I would spend 5 minutes talking to the client in advance, right?
Mhm.
Just and sort of talking through stuff. And that way during the testimony, if there was something I wanted them to say specifically, I would even just say it. Hey, when we were talking before, you said this particular point was one of the things that mattered to you. Can you explain that to me? And then they roll into it, right? And
Yeah.
and it still works pretty well. I mean, everybody's aware, like we talked, but I'm their lawyer. Everybody knows we talked anyway, right? So it's
Yeah.
not like so I think it comes across fine to do something like that.
Yep.
But you put the thought into it if you're recording it saying, hey, would it be, and I always tell people, I only want you to say what's true. Would it be true if you still said it this way? They're like, well,
Hmm.
yeah, that'd be great. Okay, well, can you do that for me? Right?
Yeah.
And then they're like, yeah. And then they're happy. And then they usually put a little bit of their own spin on it. So it sounds like them too.
Oh yeah.
And that's one reason why I like almost to the client where it feels sort of off the cuff, right? Like I didn't want all my testimonials to be somebody who dresses up and comes into the office. Right? That's why I like to get them
Yeah.
when they were picking up the checks. I want them in their jeans. I want them in their work clothes.
Hmm.
I want them looking like my regular clients.
Yeah.
Right? My
Well,
regular clients don't wear suits. They're regular people.
right. And sometimes that is right. The polished testimony is great, and other times it's even the video. You don't even want the video quality to be great, meaning you want them to just grab their cell phone
Yeah.
and film themselves in an upright. They're holding their phone because that is organic.
Right.
It's real. It makes people feel like, oh, well, this was how they really felt because this. I mean, man, it's just on their cell phone. They're in the kitchen. They're in wherever, and that's where the video ass thing comes in pretty helpful in creating. You want a mix of all of them. You want the really professional, polished ones. You want case studies that have been produced that you can use as a standalone unit, and then you want the raw stuff, the stuff that's just, hey, this is just Susie who had a great. You saw, you got her some money. She's feeling better after the wreck, whatever it is, and you want her to film it that way. So you want kind of this variety because you're going to use them all for different ways and different
and if
techniques.
they all look different, then people see that too.
Yeah.
Right. So they don't feel like it's all fake. If all you've got is only the super polished stuff, then I think they begin to think, is this even a real lawyer? Right. Or like, is this a Hollywood lawyer or a New York lawyer? Right. Rather than a regular guy too.
Yeah. You come across as disconnected. You create a barrier. You create a barrier between the regular person and you because you're positioning yourself as so successfully amazing in everything you do that you look perfect. And people don't trust people that are perfect. They don't. Yeah. People trust people that make mistakes. People trust people that show errors. People trust people that spell things wrong. Yeah. They just do. It's like I don't expect you to be perfect. And if you come across as perfect, that's a problem. Hence the reason, like when you're talking about Google reviews or Yelp reviews or whatever reviews you're going to get on there, right? That if they're all perfect, it's like, Which you'd think of the opposite, like, oh, they have so many, all these 5 stars. I'm like, what? Not one person had a bad experience with
right. Nobody said anything bad.
Not
or
one
even
person?
now.
Yeah.
I mean, we reviewed, and once again, in responding to reviews, check your state bar rules. Lawyers can get in trouble with that. But I mean, like we reviewed, somebody said something one time, and we responded, right? We didn't reveal any client secrets. That's not, you can't do any of that. But we talked about our process, and honestly, it was like, yeah, dude, when you came into the office, you said this is what you want, and I said, well, that's not going to work. That's not how we work. If that's really what you want, you should probably go somewhere else. I can give you a couple names. But this is how we work. We do a great job. And you're like, okay, I want you guys. And then you complained about the things I said I wasn't going to do in the beginning. And I was like, this is, and I'm like, I told you I wasn't going to do that, dude. I mean.
Well, it's just interesting. I know we're not going to give specific advice on how to respond or if to even respond. That's up to you on a negative review. But one thing I will say, I started. It was a different field. It wasn't a law firm, but I started a different company. It was actually a restaurant years ago. And I had an employee, and this is just because I don't know some of these attorneys listening, and Shane, you may have dealt with this as well. But I had an employee who got angry at one of the managers, and she quit. This was after we'd been open like a week. So it was a really weird situation. But what she did, she went and got her and all of her friends, all of her family, and they all went and left these ridiculous 1-star reviews.
Yep.
So we're a brand new restaurant just opening up and all these ridiculous 1-star reviews. And so I'm curious what your take. I have my take. I want to hear yours first though. What do you do in a situation like that where this is not real, it's not legit, And obviously if you don't have a lot of reviews and somebody goes and leaves you 10 one-star reviews, your 5-star rating goes to about a 3 real quick. And people don't trust a 3. So like, I'm curious if you've experienced that, Shane, or what your strategy would be on that.
We haven't, and now we're larger, so I mean I mean you can actually petition Google review to remove those reviews
Yep.
as fraudulent as not clients. And my experience has been Google's actually pretty, I mean they're pretty smart folks is what I'm going to say, right? And they're pretty aware on like, hey, this looks pretty bogus, and then the stuff gets removed. Now, am I going to say that happens every time? No, but like in that situation, I think they're going to be like, okay, 10 one-star reviews in a 2-week time period. It looks a little fake, and like we can do things as a law firm, we can prove their clients are not clients and things like that, right? Or that there's no way to even verify who this is. So that's one way, is to fight all that. Like I say, we get into rules on responding and stuff, but my advice is don't assume you know what you can and cannot do in the legal industry. Go to the bar and read the actual rules. Read the opinions on that, because a lot of times we get in our heads that, oh, I can't respond at all.
Right.
That's usually not the case. Usually there's certain things you can do, certain things you can't do. And if you're concerned as a lawyer, get an ethics lawyer. It's pretty easy. Your malpractice your malpractice carrier will usually give you a hotline you can just call. And they'll give you free advice. Doesn't even cost you anything. So I do think you should respond to reviews, but you have to respond in the way your bar lets you. And it's usually not an attack on the other person, right? I usually try to, our go-to is like, I'm sorry you feel this way. We'll take the constructive criticism. We're trying to reach out to you to see if we can fix the issue, something like that. Or just get it kicked, right? We do that all the time, where it's, an angry employee or somebody who we didn't even take their case, right? And they're like, Shane's a terrible person. People get confused too, right? They post on the wrong Google business page. That happens sometimes. Right. There were never clients, so we said, no, I can't help you. And then they give me a negative review. Well, I didn't do anything except tell you I couldn't help you. I was honest. So you can get that stuff removed. That's what I recommend in the beginning. Remove the negative, remove the false reviews, I guess is what I'm saying, right? Yeah. Like your person.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And that's exactly what we did. And what was interesting, so there's 2 things I want to bring up about that I learned from that experience. Number one, there's diminishing returns. What I learned is it was actually more effective use of my time in the long run to just go get more 5-star reviews than it was to try to go to war to remove all these 1-stars. So that was the first thing that I learned. It was, and
I don't disagree with that, Trevor, at all.
Yeah, because it's like there is a point at which you realize, you know what? Yes, those are there, and I'll leave the comment that I left, which wasn't rude, and I agree with you 100%, Shane. If you ever, your first reaction is going to be to want to rebuttal and kind of fight back with these people who are talking shit. That's the thing you shouldn't do, right? Just know that that's never the right move at all. You just look like an idiot if you try to even argue at all. Acknowledge accountability and then confusion, and then ask to solve their problem, like whatever it is. Hey, let's reach out, whatever it is. But so that was what I learned, and then I just went and what I did is I got really effective at getting more reviews.
Right.
So that's all I did, and so I just washed those 1-star reviews. I buried them so deep into my Google business page that they were no longer relevant. And right, and as I amassed those, so I think that was a big one, because I think it's easy to get. We all know this, right? One negative thought takes like 10 positive thoughts to offset it in our mind. So when someone says something negative about you and your firm, the natural tendency is going to want to focus on that and get rid of it, especially if it's a fraudulent, or if it's wrong, or if you're like, you don't agree with it at all, and you're like, dude, I told you I couldn't do this, and now you're mad at me for it. You could do that, and you could spend a ton of time and energy on it, or you can just go get 10 more 5-star reviews and focus on the testimonials and the case studies we're talking about today, and it will wash that out.
And also, not only that, but I think once you get to a certain point, sometimes people, they flip. Let's see the 1-stars, right? But they've also seen a lot of the 5-stars, whatever. And if everybody's saying Trevor's an honest guy, and then you've got the 1-star with like 5 words on it, and it's all. I mean, people see when it went in, they see all that. They're like, this looks a little fishy. People are smart. People see that stuff and they're like, oh, well, that dude looks like he's just a negative person, who hates everybody. So I've had people look at my negatives, my 1-stars, and say comments to me when they were hiring me and you know, and it actually sold them on using me kind of deal.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, it was funny. You know how you can comment on people's reviews. One of the comments that this employee had said was that we did treated our employees poorly, and we expected them to work in poor conditions or something like that. I don't know, it was some weird statement like that. And somebody commented underneath it and said, this is like the 5th 1-star review in the last 24 hours about employees being treated a certain way. Something tells me this is just a disgruntled employee.
Yeah, right.
Like they literally commented that on the comment, and I just laughed when I saw it.
Yeah.
I'm all, yep, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah. Or they're like, well, I don't think you wanted to work or something, right? So it comes across great. As we're wrapping up, Trevor, I did want to say we got a couple more pieces of these How to Build Your Law Firm. And then I think our next series of videos is going to be all about breaking through plateaus, right? When you're stuck at a certain point, sort of what are the things you've got to do to break through that? That'll be next series that we're doing after we finish How to Build Your Law Firm. So just stay tuned if you're listening and that sounds like a spot where you're at. You're stuck at that $2 million, $3 million, $4 million number, or even a $500,000. Because what we do know, and me and Trevor are both going to tell you this, if you keep doing the same thing you've been doing over and over, you're not going to change the results. And moving into the new year, that'll be right around the time we're starting starting this new series about busting plateaus. But I just want to throw that in there, Trevor. And I was going to say, I don't have anything else on these other than you got to get them and you got to play that game.
Yeah.
And each one serves a different function.
Yep. Just do it. Just make it a conscious part of your business. Just put this in, make it a priority. Every customer you have, get a testimonial.
And don't make it complicated, right? Don't try to have a perfect system. Just get something where you consistently do it over and over and over. And that's how you win this game, this game here. Consistently gather some over and over and over, and you'll win.
Well, and you use the key word that we'll be using a ton going forward into this, into our next series, which is system. Create a system. Create a system, right? So we appreciate you guys listening to the show. If you got value from today's show or any of the other shows in this series, go back and listen to them if you haven't, but go ahead and share this show up with somebody you know that might get value from what we're talking about here, and maybe they just need a little bit of help, or maybe it's you. So go ahead and give us a like and a subscribe. Also, if you want more free training, you can head over to legaledgecoaching.com, where we have some free training on some of the things we've been talking about here, building this foundation, how to deal with intake, and how to really just step up your game and get out of the way so that you stop being the roadblock to what you're trying to build, right? Which is a firm that's on fire and a life that's on fire, the dream that you set out to when you passed the bar and you stepped out and started your own firm, and you're like, here we go. This is what I want. So we've got a bunch of free stuff over there that you can consume more content there. And then we really appreciate it. Also, we are coming into the new year, Shane and I are taking on a couple firms in a one-on-one environment where we will actually peel back the layers and take a look at your firm and kind of help you with where you're stuck and look at where is that sticking point. So not only can you get access to the next series we're doing in the podcast, but we'd love to have a conversation free of charge with you to help you see where are some of the pitfalls you currently have inside of your firm and what do you need to do to get out of them, as we basically show you what we have done with our business, and the same thing with yours. So appreciate you guys, and that brings us to a wrap. And we've got, I think, one more episode on the starting and growing your own law firm. But other than that, we have a fantastic rest of your day. Enjoy December. Hopefully it's not too cold where you're at. We'll see you later.